Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going deep under the hood to solve a really cool mystery. We're going to follow a single drop of gasoline on its incredible high-speed journey from your car's tank all the way to the engine. So, let's dive right in. You know the feeling. You fill up your tank, you hear that satisfying click, and you drive off without a second thought. But have you ever stopped to wonder what's really going on in that moment? What kind of incredible dance of pipes, pumps, and processors has to happen to turn that liquid fuel into pure raw power? Well, that's exactly the story we're exploring today. Okay, so before we actually follow the fuel on its physical path, we need to understand its ultimate mission. See, an engine doesn't just run on gasoline. Not at all. It runs on a perfectly precise mixture of fuel and air. And getting that recipe just right, that's the entire point of this whole complicated system. And here it is, the magic number, 14.7 to 1. Seriously, burn this into your brain. You can think of it as the perfect recipe for combustion. For every single part of fuel, the engine needs exactly 14.7 parts of air. If you stray from this ratio, even a little bit, you're going to have problems. So, what happens when that recipe gets messed up? Well, if you have too much fuel, we call that a rich mixture. Sure, you might get a little more power, but you're also just wasting gas, creating some really nasty emissions, and gunking up your spark plugs. Now, on the flip side, if you have too little fuel, that's a lean mixture. You might think, oh, that's efficient, but nope, it actually causes crazy high engine temperatures and can lead to some really serious damage. This is exactly why that precision is so critical. All right, so now that we get the why, let's start tracking the how. We're going to follow our little drop of fuel as it makes its way from the safety of the storage tank through this whole network of lines and components on its way to the very heart of the engine. You can think of this first part of the journey as a high-stakes supply run. First, the fuel is stored safely in the tank. Then it gets pressurized, a lot. From there, it's shot at high speed through the fuel lines. And finally, right before it gets to the really important parts, it gets purified by the fuel filter. But, none of this can happen without the system's absolute powerhouse. Yeah, if the engine is the muscle of the car, then the fuel pump is definitely the heart. In pretty much all modern cars, this is a high-pressure electric pump, and it's actually submerged right inside the fuel tank, which is a clever way to keep it cool. It pushes that fuel forward with some serious force. We're talking anywhere from 40 psi, which is kind of like a strong bike tire, to over 2,000 psi in some of those high-performance engines. It is, without a doubt, the engine's lifeline. So, we've covered the plumbing, right? The physical hardware that moves the fuel from point A to point B. But how does the system know how much fuel to send? How does it possibly maintain that perfect 14.7 to 1 ratio all the time? Well, that all comes down to the brains of the operation, a really sophisticated network of electronics. To make all these split-second decisions, the system needs data. It gets that data from a whole host of sensors. Basically, it's eyes and ears. You've got the mass airflow sensor, measuring exactly how much air is coming in. Then you have the oxygen sensor, way down in the exhaust, checking how well the fuel actually burned. And there are others measuring how hard you're hitting the gas, the engine's temperature, you name it. All this data creates a complete picture of what the engine needs, millisecond by millisecond. And all of this information from all those different senses, it all floods into one central command center. This is the single most important electronic component in your entire vehicle. And this is it, the ECU, or Engine Control Unit. This thing is the master computer. It takes in all that sensor data, crunches the numbers instantly, and makes constant, tiny little adjustments to how much fuel is being delivered. Its one and only job is to keep that air-fuel ratio as close to perfect as humanly possible, no matter what you're doing, whether you're just sitting at a stoplight or flooring it to get on the highway. Okay, this all builds to the grand finale. We've stored the fuel, we've pressurized it, we've filtered it, and the ECU has calculated the exact amount needed. Now it's time for the final, most critical step, actually getting that fuel into the engine. So here's the thing you have to understand. An engine can't really burn liquid gasoline. It has to be vaporized into a superfine mist. The technical term is atomized, so it can mix perfectly with the air. And that's the job of the fuel injectors. These are these tiny, high-tech nozzles that the ECU commands to open and close for just a few milliseconds at a time, spraying a perfect cone-shaped mist of fuel right into the incoming air. It's incredible. This slide really shows you just how far we've come. The old way, for decades, involved a carburetor. It was this purely mechanical contraption that was clunky, inefficient, and honestly, just terrible for emissions. Modern fuel injection, all controlled by that super smart ECU, is a complete game changer. It gives us more power, way better fuel economy, and much, much cleaner air. Okay, so we've got the theory down, but how does all this apply to you and the car sitting in your driveway? Well, knowing how the system works is really the first step to keeping it healthy. So let's go over a few practical things you can do. Your car will usually give you some hints when something is wrong with its fuel system. So ask yourself, are you noticing weak acceleration? Does the engine kind of sputter or hesitate when you step on the gas? Or maybe you're just getting way worse gas mileage than you used to. These are all classic symptoms that something in this complex chain, from that pump all the way to the injectors, might need some attention. The good news is a little bit of preventative care goes a really long way. Probably the single best thing you can do is just replace your fuel filter according to your car's service schedule. It's such a simple little part, but it protects all the really expensive ones. Also, using high-quality fuel and trying not to run your tank completely empty all the time, that helps protect the fuel pump. These simple habits can literally save you a ton of money down the road. So there you have it. From the gas tank to the combustion chamber, the modern fuel system is just an absolute marvel of engineering, perfected over more than a century. This incredible, intricate system leaves us with one final question. As we start moving towards hybrid and fully electric vehicles, what will the journey of tomorrow's fuel even look like?